All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AJC and the Web Devs with our recurring guest, Monarch Wadia.
Ooh, yeah.
So, man,
Hello,
what
everybody.
you've been up to? We were off last week, so this is our first time in 2 weeks. Is it warming up near you yet? It's warming up near me.
It's getting a lot warmer. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I'm therefore feeding my Coke habit. Cheers. Uh,
A
and
good kind of Coke.
that's and I'm really enjoying life. It's summer. It's a nice day. Been getting into like DAG workflows and task orchestration. We're not going to talk about that today, I don't think. But yeah, stuff's good.
Yeah, and we have a super secret side project we're working on, which I don't think we're
Oh,
going
yeah.
to talk about, but super secret side project.
Maybe we should like maybe build a few more of those things that we're building, maybe 10 of them, and then share it.
Mhm. No, totally. Yeah, I mean, a bunch of my friends were already like, "This is very cool." So people are
Hmm,
into it. It seems like.
nice, nice.
But today we're going to talk about Autoshow, which I've been working on a ton. Um, been kind of just building it out, making it more legit in terms of like project structure and docs, and building out the capabilities and making it idiomatic to what a CLI should do. Got Fuzzy in the chat. What's up, Fuzzy?
Hello,
So
Fuzzy.
yeah, and yeah, anything else you kind of want to chat about that you've been learning or working on recently before I kind of dive into my stuff?
Now let's dive into it. Do you want to do like hey everybody, do you want to do like a quick rundown of what auto show is?
Yeah, totally. So, Auto Show is my basically workflow that I've translated to work with any kind of content, whether it's video or audio, and creating transcripts and sorry. I'm using the stage manager now instead of uh, the doc, so I've got kind of getting used to a new workflow. But check these out. I generated some potential cool images for Auto Show. Do any of these strike you?
I like the first one. I think that was really cool. The one after that one.
This one?
I think this one's my personal favorite because it's just so cool. I don't know. It's got this nostalgic, retro, futuristic, but AI generated vibe to it. I don't know. I like this one.
I do like, yeah, I like the colors. It's in line with my rainbow
Hmm,
parakeet also, which is nice.
that's true.
Yeah, I like this one because I always liked this like mic image for podcasting in general. That just always strikes me as like a quintessential like podcast kind of image. But it's not just for podcasts. So
Hmm.
and then this is nice, but it's also kind of like generic looking.
I don't like this one. It's so played out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the easiest, the simple thing. Whereas this has a little personality to it.
Totally. I like this one.
Okay.
I like the other one too. It has that video reel in the background too.
Uh-huh.
It's not just audio.
And
So
it's like powerful, like it reminds me of Boogie Nights. When
hmm,
have you seen Boogie Nights?
no, but
It's
just by the name, I can kind of imagine.
it's a great movie. It's about the porn industry in the 70s, and Mark Wahlberg is like the main character, and he comes up with like this name for his porn name, and he like imagines it like in big lights, like Auto Show. So it reminds me of that. It's a great movie, but
Gotcha.
so the cool thing about Auto Show is that it works with a lot of different kind of input types. So when I first was doing this, I wanted to do it for my podcast, FS Jam, which is here. But I ended up kind of going through a circuitous route where I first started doing it with YouTube videos and YouTube playlists. because the YTDLP was a really nice tool to kind of manage that part. But now you can kind of feed it anything you want. Even for stuff like the video, if you just feed it like an actual file, it can still basically figure it out. And so I've broken it up into actual like modules. And if we look at this, we have like bigger. We got the process video. This is kind of the base one where it takes in the video from YouTube and creates the front matter, and then runs transcription, and then basically attaches prompts to it that can get fed to an LLM. And there's also then process playlist, which will run on multiple videos. And then now I have process RSS feed, which uses this fast XLM parser library, which is pretty sweet. It just gives you a really simple way to turn XML into like JSON data. And then you can kind of work with that in a similar way to how I'm working with the outputs of YTDLP. So that would be this one, yeah. So this is process RSS item, which pulls out all this stuff from the podcast feed and then runs all the same stuff on it. And then here it processes the full feed and iterates over the items. So yeah, there's different structures for RSS feeds that would have like also blog content, or like even YouTube channels themselves have RSS feeds. But I find for most that you would actually listen to through like a podcast player, they basically standardized on this kind of they give you a very specific kind of like breaks down into items. Each item has an enclosure which has the URL, and then there's a title and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so this is cool because there's so much podcast content on RSS feeds. And now you can run all those through.
Gotcha.
And then
so
the last,
could you go ahead.
I was gonna say the last thing is then also I added a ability to configure which model you're running for Whisper transcription. Because if you want to do a quick demo, you could do like the base one. It'll run like 10 times faster than the large, but with not as good accuracy. And then these are some of like the more kind of like nitty gritty file management type stuff.
Nice.
So what
this is. I was going to say, so does the RSS code call the code that you already had? Like, does it just run the other commands under the hood, or how's that structured?
Yep. So now AutoGen, which used to be this one monolithic file that did everything. Now
and this is the commander. So this is the argument parser, right? So this is where the CLI entry point starts.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where you're actually defining now each of the options. And so there's an option for video, playlist, URLs, RSS, and then model, and then with a short alias option as well.
Nice.
For
so
you
can do like autogen -r and then the URL for your RSS feed, and that's how you can actually parse the whole RSS feed, right?
Yeah. And then I'm at the point now where I also have a couple of things that aren't fully integrated yet, but like different transcription APIs. So we'll be able to feed those to the CLI to be like, if you want to pay to get something faster without running Whisper yourself. And then same thing for like LLMs. Like I've got Claude integrations and like ChatGPT integrations. So yeah, there's a lot of things also that are kind of like half built out that need to be connected still. But it's all coming together. It's really cool, and it's giving me a lot of different things to work with in like the kind of AI space right now, because you can do everything through APIs, but it's kind of a cost, or you can do everything local, but then it's like this crazy like local dependency nightmare, and you have to like download like massive gigabytes of stuff. So just like all these trade-offs with all these different options. So eventually it gets to the point where I'm gonna run a crap load of benchmarks that are gonna be mixing and matching all these different options, like APIs versus local, and all the trade-offs of like cost and speed, and then just like how the outputs compare to all that. And I'll have like freaking 20 outputs to look at and be like, okay, which of these suck and which of these are pretty good, and it was like all kind of all in the middle. So that part is coming soon.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. I I I think you're doing a lot of things in a very similar way to what I'm building out for us. Like we're sort of going in parallel tracks, so we should talk about that stuff later because I don't think we're ready to share what we're building, but we should talk about it because you're also doing stepwise stepwise operations, and it sounds like it sounds like you can make stuff even more and more complex. I can see a place here for agents, for example.
Yeah.
So it's. Have you considered using any workflow or task management, like a task runner or anything like that?
No, not yet, because it's kind of a clearly defined at least amount of things that need to be run right now, but there will be a point where obviously it'll make sense to have that kind of stuff. I'm kind of looking to, like, what would be an example of that I would look at, I guess.
So I'm using this thing called Luigi, and my use case is different because I want the stuff that I'm building to not be a CLI tool but be a server component. So, but there's stuff for there's lighter weight stuff too. So what Luigi is yeah, it's by Spotify. So yep,
Let's
that one.
see. Yeah, and I was telling you how I'd heard this through like podcasts back in the day, but had no idea really what it did. I need to just like look at some code. I want to see some examples.
Gotcha.
These are not going to help actually.
I can give you a quick rundown. So actually, if you go lower, there, that's sort of what this gives you. Is what it gives you is a graph of tasks, and those tasks they can be dynamically defined or they can be statically defined, but it gives you a workflow management engine so that each task can be controlled and logged and monitored separately and even parallelized. So if you're, let's say you're taking text and you're generating 500 different images from a piece of text, then you want to parallelize that, and you want to also see that all those 500 image generation calls, they go successfully. So
yeah, so I need this then for when you want to run on like a playlist or an RSS feed. Like you just hit like every single episode at once. In theory, it
would help because what this also does is it also gives you the ability to have checkpoints. So let's say you got the RSS feed. So the first thing you want to do in your case is you want to fetch the RSS XML, which is like, for those who don't know, it's like a big XML text object, and it has a list of all of the different episodes that are on the RSS feed. Then you want to go through all those RSS feed episodes, and then you want to download the YouTube video for all of those.
So here's an example. Go to this is RSS right here. So we have individual items for each episode. There's a title, and then here we got the URL. So you got 94 of these.
Right. So you have 94 different URLs that you want to first parse. So first you gotta get the RSS, and that might fail. That call might fail. Then you want to parse those 94 episodes out, and that parsing might fail. Then after you've parsed it, for each of those 94 episodes, you want to download a YouTube video for each of those, and that's definitely, you're going to have failures on if you're going to try and download 100 YouTube videos, you're going to have 1 or 2 failures that need to be retried. because of rate limits or because of some issue with your network, whatever it is. So now after you've downloaded those, you want to generate transcripts from those. And then after you generate the transcript, you want to generate summaries. So you have like this complex, beautiful, complex pipeline already. And having a task runner gives you the ability to, if you've already downloaded the YouTube video, you don't want to download it again just because you're running the command again. You just want to use the darn YouTube video. Yeah. So a task runner could give you that. Luigi definitely gives you that. So you don't have to download that YouTube video over and over again. It just gives you a checkpoint, and you just continue from the checkpoint forward. And that's what I'm using it for. I wonder if there's something like that for Node.js. I haven't.
That's literally what I'm doing right now. It's just I just went off screen because I didn't want to show my Chat GPT history, but I wanted to ask it what is the Node.js equivalent for Luigi. The task manager or task runner.
Yeah.
N8N or agenda. Interesting.
Okay. Powerful workflow automation tool.
I feel like I've heard of this. This is AI native. That's nice.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
I know, right? Everyone's saying that.
Yeah. So how these things work is these might be overkill for a CLI, and maybe you want to ask it which one of these is appropriate for a CLI that's only going to be run locally. But because this is supposed to be server stuff.
I'm building a CLI with Commander.js, so it will be a good fit. It's suggesting bull or agenda.
For bull, you'll need a Redis server running, which is a kind of a bummer.
Yeah, let's see. Let's check out agenda. It says lightweight job scheduling. Except this website is not secure. It's not a good sign. Let's see. Oh yeah, this hasn't been in 2 years. I just don't like using open source projects like that. Honestly,
I think in JavaScript, I think that's a fair concern. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 6 node versions behind. Let's see. It says bull is currently in maintenance mode. Okay, so I feel like this is just the type of thing that Node.js hasn't really solved as a package, and a lot of people use services to do this kind of stuff. Maybe I should look at N8N then, even if it's gonna be overkill. Like, if it does the thing I need it to do, then why not?
Yeah, I'm still looking into it. Like Bree.js is another one that came up. BREE. It has cron, so I know that it's robust. I just wonder if Bree might be it, because it looks like it has parallelization, and
yeah, this looks cool.
I think, let's see.
Bree does not force you to use an additional database layer of Redis or MongoDB. Great.
Amazing.
That's exactly what I want. Yeah, no, this is great. I feel like I've heard of this before a while ago, but I never got to a point where I actually had a project where I needed this kind of thing.
Yeah. What it'll give you is you could always build a checkpoint logic yourself, but what a framework like this gives you is it just gives you a lot of things that are unit tested and robust out of the box, and you don't have to worry about the architecture of how to build something like a DAG from scratch. So this is I think it's going to be a common problem in the world of AI, like having just like a multi-hop agent or like agentic workflows is not going to be enough. Like, we need pipelines to do stuff that's very well defined. almost like a factory pipeline. It's like I think this is we're kind of living through the industrial revolution of of, of software development. Like we're building factory pipelines for information. So
Have you used SageMaker?
I have not, no. But isn't SageMaker more for training LLMs and stuff?
Yes, it's also deploys them, but it's probably just
Hmm.
one of the parts. And then like model monitoring and debugging.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah, these are all just. Have you used weights and biases?
I mean, like,
I don't really
is
know
that
what that
a
one does. That's part of it.
platform? Is that a
Um,
platform? Never
I
heard of
think
it.
it's like general tooling.
Hmm.
Huh. They have ML ops solutions, LLM ops solutions, and
Interesting.
then
No, I'm a drug brain developer, man. I don't train LLMs. I just work with them, you know. So um, for better or worse, I'm a systems integrator now. I'm not really the one building the brains.
yeah, I feel like the things that need to be kind of like tested and verified is kind of once you start outputting stuff with custom data, like how do you make sense of whether you're like getting good outputs or not and which kind of models you should be using, which is not like traditional model testing and iterating and like training. It's just like you mostly just working with a foundation model, but you're tweaking different prompts with different sets of
Hmm.
data you're querying on. And so that seems like the thing you want to be able to like test around and iterate on, but that's not like an easy thing to have a one size fits solution like training models.
Yeah, yeah. The testing is something that very few people have figured out. I think a lot of people are just like they're paying lip service to the need to test LLMs. A lot of companies are just paying lip service to it, but
Well, everyone's
every
running
time,
these set of benchmarks that are considered like the benchmarks, and like those are like they're kind of they're useful signals for people who are working with these things. They don't really tell you how good these things are at anything.
yeah, yeah, the we're so early on in LLMs that I don't really think that a lot of companies really have cracked the output evaluation yet. Um,
Mostly, it's just that's where the human in the loop is. Is like check the output. It's like the one
yeah,
job that humans are gonna have left.
right. Yeah, it's I was looking into this thing called the DSPY framework, and one of the hypotheses over there was uh, if you can log the outputs of your pipeline, then you can use the outputs as examples. And if you can make input output example pairs for your LLMs, and that's the best way to actually instruct them. Like you can always tell your LLM, um, hey, I want you to write in the style of Shakespeare. But if you actually gave it examples of Shakespeare, then it'll do a lot better, and it'll be a lot more
Right,
as
that's one of the things I
expected.
do with Autoshow is I give it a prompt and I tell it what I want, and then I give it like an actual markdown file with the example of the structured data and output that I want it to give me.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was talking to the guy who made LLM client. He's at Dosco on Twitter. A really smart guy, really nice guy. And he was telling me about the DSP paper. So he built LLM client around the DSP paper.
Oops.
So full
Let me just.
disclosure, I haven't played with LLM client yet, but it, it it looks promising. It's sort of like an LLM library. It's lighter weight than LangChain, for
Let's see. It's
example.
been around for almost a year now,
Yeah, yeah, he's
so
been
that's
working
that's
on it.
good.
Mm,
Cool.
mm,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're the one who first told me about this. I haven't
mm.
tried it. I've kind of shied away from anything that runs in the browser because I'm not sure how because I know how much the actual models that work really well, like how freaking huge and ridiculous they are, and I feel like you could just do an API call for like a really basic model and get a similar output. But
That's fair.
I may be wrong because I haven't actually used them that much, so I need to try and kind of see what it's like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have it might not be a good use case for mobile, but for desktop, I mean, I have a gigabit connection and I can download a model in less than a minute. It's not a huge lift. And those models can be downloaded right into the browser. So uh, once you have the nice thing about having an LLM in the browser is that now everything is like private by default. You're actually not doing any API calls. Your prompts are not going over the wire anywhere. So you have privacy and security that way. And because everything is local, you as a developer, you're not paying anymore for the LLM. The user is running the LLM on their own machine. Also, because they're running it on their own machine, if they have a powerful machine, like an M3, for example, we both now know someone who has an M3, and
Right.
and having powerful
Okay,
hardware.
well, in that case, that's not really running in the browser. Then that's just using the browser to call out to the underlying whatever someone's hardware is.
Well, I mean, it goes through the browser though. It goes through the
Uh-huh.
OpenGL layer, not the
Okay.
OpenGL layer, but
So, but
the
at the end of the
browser.
day, it's saving a 3 GB model on your machine.
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
is.
So yeah,
It
then
is.
it's all kind of the same thing at the end of the day. Then so
Yeah, yeah,
because in my
exactly.
mind I'm thinking like if you're running a model in the client, like how much can you fit in the client? But what you're saying
Ah,
is it's just giving you another way to download the thing onto your machine just through a different API
so
interface.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And it also you can npm package your code. So the library itself, WebLLM, can be is just an npm package. You just include it
Right.
like any
Yeah,
other dependency.
and that's exactly why I was looking at Llama CPP or Node Llama CPP actually, because this is a similar thing where it's just
Hmm.
a package you install, and then you can run all sorts of. You can pick a model, and then you just like download whichever model you want, and then run
Gotcha.
your kind of your prompts and whatnot.
Gotcha. Now,
Yeah.
Llama CPP is backend only, though, right?
Yes, but my project right now assumes everything is Node.js anyway, so
Hmm.
there is no
Gotcha.
client code at all in what I have right now. So I figure once I get everything running on the back end with Node.js, and then I'm not making weird C++ or like
Yeah,
Brew
yeah.
library stuff. I need to first get rid of that, and then once it's running in all Node, then it's just flipping all those to kind of browser compatible stuff,
Gotcha. I gotta
which
check
is
this
easier and
out.
easier now with where Node.js is because it uses fetch and all this other crap.
Gotcha. Yeah, one of the downsides of WebLLM is that it only takes a very specific um, file format for its weights and biases. So it like the model file has to be precompiled by the WebLLM guys, and they only have a relatively small list of LLMs that are available. So they just added Llama 2 and Mistral 7B, but I don't know if they have Llama 3 yet, and I don't know if they have any of the Gemini
So
models.
if let me go to the the Node Llama CPP. It gives you all of these are available like right now. So you have
Nice.
Llama 2, Llama 3, Code Llama. You have Mixtral, some crazy dolphin thing that apparently is like an uncensored mixture of experts thing. That's
Hmm.
super awesome, apparently. And then some I've never even heard of, Gemma and Orca. So this
Nice.
is all available in Node Llama CPP, and you can run like a start command. This is technically beta version 3 beta, which is not out quite yet, but it comes with this sweet like create projects. You like scaffold up projects that use whichever model. Let me actually show you that. This is
That's
pretty
really neat.
sweet. So just run this guy.
So you
So
don't
it
have to run
gives
Python at all. This is all Node.js,
yeah, it's right through
JavaScript.
NPX. So let me pick a small one because this is gonna take a very long time when we do this. Got here.
So do you even need a special like LLM ops deployment for this? I mean, isn't this just like it's going to manage all of it for you and deploy it on a server? So do we even need to worry about SageMaker at this point, or can we just use llama.cpp?
Yeah, and this is kind of where I've been going with all this stuff is it's like I haven't needed to reach out for like a more complicated thing to manage. Like, so I'm kind of just finding ways to do each part kind of incrementally. And the big thing is basically whether you're running things locally or you're gonna want to, because a lot of this can then, since it's gonna be Node, you can then port this to, if you wanted to like run this on a server, you can do that. And a lot of these will have like Docker integrations and stuff like that. So if you wanted to spin up your own thing, that then you're still not making like API charges. If you have the ability to spin up a Node server, which is hard or easy depending on who you are, that's kind of a cool mid ground too. That I'm eventually want to kind of try out for myself, because I would like to just have like a $5 DigitalOcean droplet that I can just like have constantly running like transcriptions and stuff for me. Like, that would be pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then once you build in the APIs, and that's like it's just gonna run and give you an instant output, but you're gonna have to pay. And that's where I then can start to have like paid options to where I'm giving you kind of access to these APIs and really fast instant output with very little technical knowledge required, but then they'll be paying to cover the margins of what it costs for me to use the APIs.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like right now, to generate one of those things that we're working on, it costs us like $5 to $10 to generate one. And
Uh-huh. Oh, really?
the other
Interesting.
project, yeah, yeah, because there's like a lot of calls going out to a lot of different LLMs. And right now, I haven't done any deployments of models. I'm just calling APIs of various sorts, and it costs $5 to $10, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't bad unless you scale it up. And once you scale it up, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
identify
because if you
which
want to do a video
model.
every day, that gets expensive pretty
Oh
quickly.
yeah, oh yeah. Like we're using audio, video, and we're using like traditional text-based text-to-text models. I can see scope for using multimodal models too. And I don't want us to pay for that like over and over and over and over again. Um, so yeah,
And that's
right
what's
now
figuring. Just
I'm
like
sort
your
of
own server that you're managing would be nice.
exactly. So right now I'm just uh, the reason I'm refactoring is because I want to make sure that we know what we're paying for, and once we know what we're paying for, we can sort of make decisions of okay, if we want to scale this up to 500 artifacts generated a day, then how much is that going to cost us per day, and how can we reduce those costs? So that conversation can't be had until we know what's costing us, and we can't know what's costing us until we have like discrete jobs in Luigi where those discrete jobs are being run separately. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, it's a good
Okay,
time to
so
do it
I,
now.
I stopped the
Go ahead.
model downloading because it was making my whole thing lag. And I have one that's already downloaded here. So just so people can kind of get a sense of what's happening here, this is a quick like getting started thing with Node Llama CPP. So I've got, it's a really bare bones project, just an index.js file, and then a models directory with this model right here. So this is Llama 3, 8 billion parameters, instruct as one of the Q8 underscore zeros for the quantization level. And then there's just two dependencies. This is originally a TypeScript thing. I stripped out all the things, and now it's just Chalk and Node Llama CPP. And this is not the best example because it's an instruct thing. So you have to like prompt it and kind of create a back and forth conversation between user and AI. So I'm eventually gonna just pull this out and just give like a prompt to a chat interface. But this is the bare bones output it gives you. So I'm just gonna run this and hopefully it works. Okay.
And I haven't seen Chalk in so long. I loved Chalk when I first found it. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is cool.
So what this is doing is there it goes.
And all this is local, eh?
Yep. So this is this guy is like 8 gigabytes or something model. Let me see here. Hi there, how are you? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. and then you ask it to like identify verbs in a sentence. So I was actually listening to an interesting interview with one of the main guys at OpenAI. He was talking about how this was the big unlock for ChatGPT, was going from these instruction things to just being able to prompt the chat models directly without having to like kind of feed them this back and forth to make it simulate a user chatbot kind of interface.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's your Node Llama CPP. Hello world. And then Autoshow also has right now got a couple APIs available that you just kind of string together, and then these two transcription things, which we kind of talked about last time, Assembly AI and DeepGram. Their summaries and chapters are like way worse than just feeding a transcript directly to the model, I found, in prompting it. So the real thing that's nice with these is you get way faster transcripts and also fairly good speaker diarization, which is only kind of experimentally supported right now in Whisper CPP. And that's like really, really important if you don't want to spend a ridiculous amount of time actually editing the transcripts, like having to put each individual speaker and like separate those manually. It's just like defeats the whole purpose. You end up having to write the whole transcript anyway.
So are you building transcripts, or are you also doing like summaries?
So it starts with the transcript, and then the transcript gets fed to the LLM with the prompts that creates every part of the show notes, which is configurable. Different lengths of summaries. You can get titles or not. You can get chapters and descriptions of the chapters, and you can get key takeaways. You can get tangents. You can kind of do whatever you want. But it starts from the basis is the transcript with the timestamps, and you just feed that whole sucker with a prompt, and then you then have the transcript and the output that which you can put together and create the total SEO optimized web page.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. And then you could feed that and turn that into a video by itself. This is really neat. Like the nice thing about all these things is that because it's multimedia and now you can actually do programming on the text itself, like all of these things are like all of a sudden the difference between text and media just doesn't exist anymore in a way.
No, it's really nuts. Like just being able to have AIs watch all this content for us and kind of like summarize it and make sense of it and create new things off of it. It's a huge wide world. I was listening to a really interesting interview actually with this classicist who was talking about Galen, like one of the most published Greek like doctors of all time, and how he has like 20,000 pages of writing with like 10% of it is translated into English. And so having like all these classics can now also have like this pipeline where like 99% of it is translated into the English, and then you can just have like a couple grad students all of a sudden have this whole canon of like new translations of old ancient texts, like just stuff like that. Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
I wonder, the copyright gray area is concerning, just legally, not ethically, because ethically, whether you translate by hand or use a machine to translate, I personally don't really put any ethical value to one way of doing it or the other. But legally, it's an interesting question, right? Because who owns the derived materials? Is it you? Is it the original author?
Well, it's a lot simpler when you're talking about Greek texts, because it's like you can make like that's public domain. Like no one can claim to own Plato like on a monetary basis. Whereas someone who wrote like you're a sci-fi, like you wrote, or if you're like Harry Potter, like that's kind of that's a whole different claim,
That's true. Yeah, I guess if you're like translating Galen, who seems to be like an ancient Greek doctor, then it's going to be in the public domain. But then, are courts, if you generate a piece of content using an LLM, is that copyrightable? Have courts decided on that yet, or?
So this is an interesting thing. Well, this is working its way through the courts right now because New York Times is suing OpenAI, and that's just kind of like going to decide a whole bunch of the parameters around copyright and training and things like that. But what I've heard is that OpenAI and Anthropic and all these companies have actually written in their terms of services, and this is pretty cool, that anything you generate with them is like it's not copyrighted to anybody. It's something new, and you can use it yourself, and you cannot be sued. Or if you get sued for like copyright infringement, they will defend you in court. This is what I've heard on podcasts, at least. Like I thought it was really interesting when I heard that. And there was like
Okay.
one LM company that was like not going to do that. And it was like this big thing is all the other ones had already done it. So let's do a whole conversation about this. It was really, really fascinating. This was like 6 months ago or so. So things could be totally different now. Like all this stuff is moving so fast. But at the time, they kind of built in some legal protections because they knew so many people would be generating so much freaking content and putting it, using it for everything. So it's like
Yeah.
that'd be a huge Pandora's box. All of a sudden, everyone could be sued for anything they created with ChatGPT.
Yeah. It's did you hear about, it's related and I'll tie it back, but Google recently uh, uh, now Google will answer with AI generated results, and it's kind of putting its web results into a separate tab altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted just the traditional Google search results, which have been around for like 20, 30 years, then you actually have to click on a separate tab, and that's how you can get the old fashioned results. But now everything is like, it's like a mishmash of videos and AI responses and web results and stuff you can buy and sponsored results. It's like a mishmash now after you do search, and it's I think PageRank is probably like dead or dying at this point because there's so much content that's relatively high quality and on topic that this AI is going to generate, and everybody's going to be generating AI content on all sorts of materials, and who knows what's AI generated and what's not, and who knows what's real and what's fake. The
Yeah.
PageRank, like the PageRank algorithm is probably effectively like done at this
Yeah, I
point,
wonder how
probably
much
obsolescent.
just inertia you get from people just going to Google to look for things.
Hmm.
Because if I guess if you're someone who searches for like websites and things like that, you would still go through Google. But a lot of people they're just in like their social apps. Like they'll just search for things like on YouTube or whatever.
Mm, mm. Oh yeah, that too. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a weird world. It's like the way we access information is becoming more semantic. So, um,
The
but
semantic web. Are you telling me we got to the semantic web 20 years later?
I suppose I am. I suppose I am, right? I mean,
Web
how many?
4.0, semantic again.
Isn't that what's
Semantic
basically
harder.
happening? So semantic web, correct me if I'm wrong, but semantic web was people decided to put metadata all over their HTML and use like special HTML tags that were meaningful, and instead of using divs everywhere, so that the web content would actually be machine readable in a meaningful way. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yes, and it was always coupled with the idea of Web 2.0. They would say Web 2.0 is the semantic web, and they would say it's about user-generated content instead of just, website-generated content. And those two things are always kind of coupled together, but really were kind of different concepts, actually. And then the semantic web just kind of went away as a concept, and Web 3 was in relation to the user generated content, and they're saying now the user generated content has permissions as well. So the whole semantic thing had nothing to do with Web 3.0. So they kind of just
Huh.
threw that out. But the semantic web now with LLMs is real. Like we actually have the semantic web because of LLMs. It makes all our data semantic in a way that you couldn't with knowledge graphs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sort of weird because there's all this stuff out there that we're all. I'm sure everybody has something on the internet with their real name on it that they're not proud of, and all
Many
that
things.
stuff is not mineable.
Yeah, I
All that
mean,
stuff is not mineable.
I went on a lot of I posted a lot on message boards in high school with accounts that it's like since I was like a teenager, I could be like, yeah, obviously like I said as a teenager. Like if I said anything stupid, I could like I'm a different person. I've grown now, but it's like,
Hmm.
I just wonder, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of messages.
I, I, the law's gonna have to keep up with it because Can you imagine the number of frivolous lawsuits? I'm afraid to even put this idea out there, but can you imagine the number of, maybe I shouldn't talk about it, the number of frivolous lawsuits that, like tort style lawsuits that'll just come up from people who will mine your history. Lawyers will just go mine your history, see if they can get you for something, and then just sue you over that.
Well, it's like patent trolls. It's gonna
Yeah,
be patent trolls on an individual basis. It'll be like ransomware.
yeah, I can imagine it. I mean, especially if the lawsuits themselves can be generated using an LLM
Oh,
like
and then they're
that.
gonna hire more lawyers, use more LLMs to handle more cases.
We're entering so it's we're seeing the empowerment of each individual, really. I mean, that's what LLMs are, right? Like with technology, everybody starts getting superpowers. Like now in 2024, everybody's telepathic. Everybody can talk to each other like using nothing but a little box that's sitting on their desktop. I can see you across the world. I can um, start a business just sitting in my pajamas over here. Like everybody is just way more empowered by default. Whether people use that or not, that's a different
People don't
question.
feel that way though. That's what's so crazy about this time is like so few people that I know personally, like friends or family, like feel that they feel very unempowered by this constant encroaching digital things. It feels weird and alien and
Yeah,
disorienting. And I understand when you don't actually know how to, when you can't code, when you don't understand what's lying behind, when things are broken, you don't know why, and you have no idea how to fix things. It's just like, if thing's broken, what do
yeah,
I do? Like, like we still have that experience, but
yeah.
we can dig down a layer deeper. We're like, hey, it's broken for a reason. It says a system that's connected to things that are connected to other things. And when I give it an input, it's doing this chain of things that comes back to me. It's like that whole conception. Most people don't have that with tech. So
That's true.
it's hard to feel empowered around it.
That's fair. That's fair. Although it's weird because on one hand, there's the whole disempowerment, and that's super valid. And there's not enough has been said about it, and more has to be
This is also
said about
why
it.
I still think the chat interface, there's something to be said for it. And some people are saying like we need to go beyond the chat interface because they want AI to just be built into all their applications. But I feel like forcing
Right.
you to sit down, like talk to a thing and give a response back, no matter who you are, as a person, you have that ability. If you have the ability to
Yes,
talk to someone. So I really like that. And I feel like there's such a brilliance to what OpenAI did about really honing in on that interface and making that the value prop, because some people still they don't spend the time to learn how to talk to it right, but anyone who is curious, it's all there.
I have people our age in the family who are just getting onto ChatGPT, even though I've been telling them for years, hey, you guys should get on AI. And now they're just getting into it and their minds are being blown by how powerful this thing is and how useful it is.
My dad
So,
really likes ChatGPT. He uses it for all sorts of things, so
oh,
it's
yeah.
always funny kind of who will get into these things. It's like the very old and the very young sometimes end up on like the horseshoe thing.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. It's a funny world. I think it's incredibly empowering. It's about as empowering as a calculator is empowering. Like you no longer have to do all this crazy math in your head. You no longer have to be an engineer with a slide rule to figure out like the height of a building. Like you can just do it with a bunch of easy, like relatively easy calculations. Um, and the calculator is sort of one of those things. The printing press was one of those things, right? Like before, people didn't have the money to buy a book, which could cost you a year's salary. But after the printing press, you could go out and buy a book for like a week's salary
A
or
week, yeah. I
days.
was gonna say a week,
Yeah,
so yeah.
and it's like
Fuzzy is our resident contrarian saying, "Calm the GPT hype."
uh, it's difficult too. I find it difficult too. It's like all these.
I mean,
I don't know,
I
man.
think people compare the internet to the printing press, and to me, that's a metaphor that makes sense. And LLMs, I think if only if just LLMs could translate between languages, I think that alone is like a world changing invention.
Yeah.
So I think there's still so much to be done in that area, and I 100% disagree that we're in diminishing returns.
I
I think
disagree.
the,
Yeah.
I think people got very used to this brand new thing that showed up, and then it's gonna probably behave in ways that are somewhat expected at this point. But the interesting thing is, what do you actually do with it? How do you integrate it to all this other stuff? Like, how do you actually build out use cases with this thing? So,
Hmm.
how can you prove it? What is your rock solid logic and empirical research, Fuzzy? I'm open to hear it, and I know Monarch is as well. We're open minded. So,
We should have
and
Fuzzy on video, man. Like
oh
seriously.
yeah, no, Fuzzy always loves to throw down. Yeah, no, yeah, obviously I wouldn't expect him to have a huge manifesto, but if
Yeah.
you want to come on, chat, it'll be fun.
Yeah. And I get to meet Fuzzy if
Yeah, no,
that's what requires.
Fuzzy is a hoot and a half. He's the most Scottish person I know by a wide margin.
I found out something about Scottish culture. So the
Uh-huh.
national flower of Scotland is a thistle, which is like this spiky flower. It's like I see it everywhere in Ontario. It's like a spiky flower that's really tough, and if you touch it, it'll poke you back. And it's like a cactus, basically. And that's the national flower because it symbolizes endurance, defiance, and strength. And I thought that was just the most amazing flower to have for a national flower. Honestly, like that's amazing.
Okay, as soon as my Discord finishes updating, we're about to get in it. And it's win. All right, check your Discord messages, Fuzzy.
Ooh, Fuzzy's coming on. Fuzzy's coming on.
The Fuzzy Bear, the one and only. For people who don't know, Fuzzy Bear was on FS Jam, episode 89. Wham.
Astro community with a fuzzy bear.
Yeah, he worked for Astro. I'm pretty sure he was like a full-on Astro employee for a long time before he went to the Linux Foundation.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he's been someone who's definitely one of the web developers I know has been more bearish on AI, and yeah, I get where they're coming from, but I just disagree.
Linux Foundation must be such a fun job.
Totally.
Honestly.
Do you have things you want to work on between now and our next show?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that refactor. After I do the refactor, which hopefully I can get done today, although I'm sort of sleep deprived, so we'll see how far I get today. Maybe with caffeine. But definitely by tomorrow I'll be done with the refactor. Then I'll generate more of those artifacts. And I think by next week, if I can generate like 8 more by next week, which should be possible, then especially with a cleaned up pipeline, then hey, maybe we can demo what we built next week.
That would be exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sci-fi fans. I think they'll be excited about it. So
yeah,
super
cool. Yeah, and for me, I really need to look at. There's a node wrapper for Whisper CPP that I need to try and see if that's gonna make sense. That might help mitigate some of the weird integrations with Whisper, but and then just kind of like actually factor in the transcription stuff and the different model APIs and give like different options for those, because pretty much all that's pretty much there. It just needs to be kind of like connected. So that's what I plan to have done by next week. It's my goal for myself.
Yeah, maybe we can make the two worlds meet, because that CLI, like the pipeline that you're building, is like very adjacent to the pipeline that I'm building in many ways. So I wonder if there's I think you're the one who mentioned that idea of I think you might have mentioned something along those lines, or maybe not, but
well, I was saying how it would make sense to come out with Ragged, because with Ragged, I would have an easy way to switch out different models that I want to run an output on ChatGPT and Claude and Cohere and get 3 outputs really fast, and then kind of compare them and compare the different costs. if Ragged is the universal interface, then I want to bring that in for the LLM layer. Because right now what I'm doing is I'm installing client libraries. I have an OpenAI client library in a stone file, and I have a Claude Anthropic client library because I don't want to at this point bring in something like a LangChain or a Llama Index. I've used those things. I know how to use them. I'm starting with just that. I want to be close to the metal for each of these different things. All right, we got Fuzzy the man himself.
Fuzzy.
Yo, there's my hand. Where's my hand? There's my hand. Hey, how are we all?
So this is Monarch Fuzzy.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys. Good to meet you, bro.
Yeah. What you been up to recently, man? How's life?
Yeah. Loving life. Since summer's coming in, loving it. It's like my favorite time of the year. I like legit loving it. Days don't end, man. It's like the sun doesn't set from between now and June. Literally, the sun doesn't set.
What time does it go down? Like,
I've been in Alaska in the summer. And that actually the sun don't set.
I know, it's so cool, man.
What are you saying, Monarch?
We get sunset at about 9 p.m. and sunrise at about 5-ish. I'd like to say. But
whereabouts in the world are you? Whereabouts in the world are you?
Toronto.
All right. Canadian, eh?
A little bit.
Oh.
It's cool. It's cool. I think these days Canada's not as cool anymore. There's a lot of politics and election year next year, so it's
it's like I said to my Canadian pals, right? When it comes to Canadian politics, right? It's literally just like the Simpsons did it well when they kind of drew the Australian Parliament. That reminds me of like the Canadian Parliament. You know the one that I'm talking about, where the Simpsons and Bart gets the boot. There's a scene right?
In the Simpsons, yeah.
I haven't watched that one, no.
Because Bart insults all of. He runs up a collect call in Australia, and he won't apologize. So they're gonna have like the king of Australia or whoever kick him with a boot.
We have a king here too.
He's our king, unfortunately. He's not my king. I just want to say. Oh man, no, it's really good. Like I've been loving the last couple of episodes you guys been doing. Like legit.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Fantastic. It's good to see, right? Library authors and developers like in the new AI space, right? So it's like I just want to say, like, before I go into like my rant about diminishing returns, right? Which is what I came on here for. There is still a vacuum in the space, and for players like Vercel, etc., right, to be the only ones creating SDKs and toolkits isn't exactly what we should be using. Isn't what we should be looking forward to as a community of open source, citizens and Denzians. So, it's like, I really respect what you're doing, Monarch, with Ragged. I took a look at it. It looks really interesting. I like to see what you would, where it goes, like, how you're going to bring in tool calls and, the streaming UI elements into it as well, because this is where I see, like, the Chat GPT interfaces going forward, is that we've, the ability to bring in UI components, and not only that, be able to interact with said, React, Svelte, solid components, right, and have that update and interact with the model itself, right, just to give you a fully rich experience, is definitely the way that is going to go. But this is where I hit the wall of diminishing returns, right? You could have these tools, right, because all we're doing, right, is like we're iterating upon GPT, right? We feel like we are innovating, but it's really the innovation was done with the neural nets and the papers and the research, right? That was the innovation. All we were doing is iterating upon the space that's being given to us, the opportunity, right? So when we look at the models themselves, they've already cannibalized pretty much the petabytes worth of human, information and data that has ever been generated.
Hmm.
You know, it's like you guys mentioned the leap between printing press and the internet. Well, put it this way, it's like between when the Gutenberg press coming online, right, and all the print media up until when 95, when Berners-Lee turned on, when the internet became available to the masses, not when it was turned on, but when it was available to the masses, right? That was like summarized into like a petabyte, right?
Hmm.
Now we're generating that almost on an hourly basis,
Hmm.
right?
So for myself, just personally, the reason why it at least feels different for me in terms of what I've done is that for me, I have a giant transcript and I feed it to a model and I want to create like show notes for it.
Mhm.
And over the last year, I have seen improvements both in terms of first, the models couldn't even take a whole transcript a year ago. Now they can. So that's something new. And even just with different models, I now use Claude because it gives me a better output than ChatGPT does. Now, is it
Mhm.
100x better? Like, no, it's like 20% better, but it's better. It's different. And so I see improvements being made. Maybe they're not, as world changing, but I think once you have cannibalized, like you say, all of the data, it's like, okay, how do we actually create feedback loops so that these things kind of get better and better, or they can learn what you want better and better by learning your patterns or having more data to work on having longer context lengths. So that is where I see the interesting work, and I see where gains can still be made. At the foundation
There,
model, you're right that like that stuff is like the next 20 years we're gonna have foundation models, but it's like
yeah,
it's hard to say where that's gonna go.
no, I mean that is it. So it's like what we're now looking at, right, is pretty much like the underlying tech, right, at its max. What we now got to do is, as developers, as engineers, is the onus is on us is to deliver this technology into the masses, into the ways that we can. Like your example that transcribing transcripts, right? It's like this functionality, fair enough, was not known to us as the developer, right? But that behavior is available. So what I'm trying to say is that what I think the way that we're going to be creating our programs is going to be more implicit, so that way we have it, is available for there's a JSON response that an LLM can also pick up, instead of just the response value, the return value that we want to get. If you try and get what I mean, we're going to have to build our programs and our APIs a bit more convoluted to take in additional inputs from these LLMs, or being able to be called from these LLMs, because that is where we're seeing the real value. Is that I was speaking to my physio the day, right? Ex-army, right? The man served on the modern battle lines of history, right? And he basically, he's like saying that it's like all this computing's not for him. Remember, we've heard this, computing's not for him, right? But then Anthony, you said that your dad uses ChatGPT as well,
Yeah.
right?
He's
So,
almost 70. Yeah.
but what we're now seeing is that computers are going to become like clay-like, right? It's like we used to be like gatekeepers on barriers of entry when it came to this stuff, right?
Well, here's a 2023 Linux Foundation report on generative AI.
That there, yes. Can I just say, right? The Linux Foundation, like before I get to the LF, right? It's like, yeah, their research team and department is fantastic. Hillary took it over, right? And she is literally like, I met her when I was at the All Hands, right? And she's the director of the department. She is just an amazing person, a pure force, and she just lives, breathes data all the time. Yeah. And so it's like, I haven't even seen. No, I think, yeah, this was shown to us. Can't mind it.
You were Fuzzy. You were going on like an interesting tangent that I just want to put a
Mhm.
pin on and come back to about computers
Yep.
becoming more like clay, because I'm getting that sense too. I have a lot more to say about it. I met some people recently. They didn't know how to code 2 months ago, and now after 2 months, they're building integrations into Amazon's FBA service and into Excel, and they're automating stuff using agents, not just AI
Mhm.
but agents. and agentic workflows. And they're using ChatGPT to build this out. And 2 months to go from not knowing how to code to actually building that is insane.
Exactly. No, and that is it. It's like, but the thing is like you got to also understand, right? Is that for a very long time, for as long as computers have been about, only a certain slither of the population has been able to utilize and maximize the ability that a computer as a tool can give you.
Tiny percentage.
You know what I mean? And so it's like now when we come to this clay-like thing, not everybody's a potter, right? But what I'm trying to say is that
that's something that's great though. That's what's empowering about it.
Yeah, I mean, wow, these are some interesting stats. It's like there's the whole. It's the whole, like you were saying earlier, it's the whole self-empowerment, right? That is going to deliver.
So what is to you the direction that we should go with LLMs? Because where do you think this should go in your ideal world?
Looking at making them efficient, because this is the one thing, right? It's like the one thing that stops us as a species from going up the Kardashev scale, right? In anything is energy and propulsion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and we're with this is the same thing with LLMs in the sense that they're extremely expensive computes, right? Like energy wise, we're already seeing energy demands increase like exponentially to by the magnitudes of tens to hundreds, right? Already the energy demand, they're anticipating the LLM energy demands to equal Japan, right? By the end of, I think it was like the next 2025, right? They say that it'll be the equal output of Japan, right? In terms of like they'll estimate 1,000 terawatt hours a year just to run LLMs by 2030.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that is just so we could do small little things on the screen, it's like give them this feedback ability, it's like, oh, it's talking back to us. I think we need to get smarter on that side. I think we really do own it. It's like if we're going a climate crisis,
I bet you think it's more useful than computing power for blockchain, though.
Oh, hell yeah. But but in saying that, it's like blockchain, hit that precise problem. It couldn't get efficient energy wise. It became more expensive to run under the computes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this is it's like LLMs is heading towards the same crises of energy that blockchains is going to hit.
So buy NVIDIA.
Pretty much buy NVIDIA and buy shares in every power company under the sun. Like that is it. It's like energy to bring into propulsion into the conversation. That is more on how I feel like the momentum is with big tech in this particular period, right? All the small, quick AI startups got picked up and acquired, right? And that is simply so they can sit on, so you can never put your technology out there. They're not going to put it out. That's just so they don't see it out there. That's why they bought it, right? We're now at this point where big tech is in the driving force of this. Open source, is in a crisis in its state in itself, right? That needs to get rectified quick. Otherwise, we're just going to let big tech dominate the entire scene. Open source always has been the counterbalance to this whole paradigm, between corporate-centric technologies and, monopolies and the digital democratic domain that is, decentralized information.
Totally. Yeah, and that's why I know I have, and I think Mark as well, we've leaned into doing as much of this open source as we can and making this stuff work with open source tools. So I think that's super cool and like a huge priority.
Oh, totally. And it's, for me, keep thinking like Star Trek computer, right? Keep thinking like AI in Star Trek. Because if anybody ever seen it, like ever envisage a future, right? It was Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
That man seen it happen. He's seen it happen, like, and we're literally living in his wake. So yeah,
Isn't it
that's
wild? It's so true. I think about this often, and you're like maybe the second other person who's said that in those words, because the holodeck and
biggest Trekkie you'll meet.
what's that?
I'm the biggest Trekkie you'll meet.
All right, what's your favorite? What's your favorite series?
I would have to say recently, right, just for nostalgic reasons, Picard season 3. Season 3 Picard for me, right, was just one that was the most tear-jerking moment. I wanted to relive every moment of that season, like, again and again and again. There's so many good bits to that. It's like when Data and Geordi finally met, when I could go into it.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Oh, dude, season 3 of Picard, legit, it is hands down a fantastic showrunner. Like,
I got turned off by season 1 a little bit, I gotta admit, but every
season 2
single
is
track.
But the thing is, right, is like I love like what they did with Picard was like they tried to tie up a lot of loose ends, right?
Yeah.
So season 1 was Data's daughter kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Season 2 is about Q, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, you have my interest. Okay.
So it's like it's it's
no
like,
spoilers. No spoilers.
I
gotta watch this. I'm a huge DS9 fan, personally.
Oh, DS9! I love the intro to Deep Space Nine. See, like when the comet comes by and you just follow this comet in space, you just like break through it, like space station wormhole, and you're thinking, the edge of the universe. I love it.
I hated that one too in season 1. I was like, what is this? There's no like warp core engine. We're not flying through space. We're just like stuck in one place. What is this? And then it just happened. Like DS9 just blew up after that. I was like, whoa.
Right when Worf came over, right? And then the Defiant, and then the whole Bajoran War.
Yeah.
Like, the whole DS9, like there's an underlying story to DS9, which is the Founders, right? Which is the Changelings, right? So Odo, right, was a changeling, right? But he was part of like the Founders, which is like the primordial like creatures who exist.
Spoiler alert, everybody, spoiler alert if you haven't watched DS9. Go ahead.
And so it's all about the Founders. Like that whole thing was all about the Founders,
Yes.
And that was a shout out back to like the original series where the Changelings first appeared, right?
Did they really? When did they appear? When did they appear?
Oh, dude, you're gonna have to ask me to bring up my encyclopedia. Like legit, I'll show you this.
It's on now.
I don't know if it shows you this, but I have 3 of these.
Whoa, man. Whoa. Oh, that is so cool.
I have like literally 3 of them.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I can I think Fuzzy, you and I can sit down and talk about Trek for like
hours.
I did not know that the Changelings were there in the original series. They even have is that like an urn? Wait, what? This is interesting. Okay, like I'm seeing like pictures of the episode The Changeling, and
did you guys ever watch the Enterprise Star Trek series?
Yeah, TNG.
Not good. Not very good.
I love TNG.
I liked it because it kept in flow with the canon, right? And it was at that period when, it was like, because we had Star Trek Advanced, and then they try to work back, like from
it was the prequels.
The prequels, and it's like, I liked how they try to do it, but it was like at that point the whole show kind of got repetitive in terms of the screenwriting and all that stuff. So
it was also right before TV got really good. It was like early 2000s, or it was like 2000s TV budgets went up like 10x.
Mm.
And when they're still using actual physical props, you could tell. You know?
Yeah, it's like watching Friends.
Yeah. You just have
Can
to
I just-
like squint a little.
Has anybody seen like the stuff from Disney, like the Disney Labs, like what they're putting out in terms of like the Mandalorian and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like you've all
I've
seen
not watched The
Mandalorian,
Mandalorian. I've heard it's awesome though. I
right?
don't have the
Dude,
Disney streaming service, so
right. You got torrents though.
it's true. Yeah, no, I do torrent stuff. Yeah.
So like legit watch it, right? And then look at how they made it, how they shot the Mandalorian, right? It is honestly like that there is going to change cinematography, like the whole way it's done. It's pretty much like a nutshell. Imagine like a domed room, right? Like semi-domed room, but it's all like 8K screens around you, right? But they
Okay.
use Unreal, like the engine, right? And then they basically immerse the landscape. Exactly, they put the
So
landscape
300 was right. Every movie is 300 now.
pretty much.
Is that how
It's just
300
green
was
screen.
made?
Well,
Yeah.
because that was the first movie. It was like just everything was green screen. They just put a bunch of dudes in green screen and then projected digital images for all the scenery. 300 was that and Sin
All
City
the
were
six
first
packs,
two
dude.
movies to really
Every
do
single
that.
6-pack was hand drawn on those screens.
Really?
Genius! Like, I'm not making that up. No, those 6-packs are real.
That's the funniest thing I've heard. But what's this 8K monitor thing? Are you just like using a metaphor, or did they actually
No,
use
no,
8K monitors for the
like
Mandalorian?
8K monitors right around, right? So it completely wraps you, right? So it's like a single screen kind of thing, right?
Okay.
And it completely wraps you, like so you get like the apex at the top, and
Yeah.
it completely goes down on all sides, and
Yeah.
then they basically just drop Unreal Engine, like to create the scenery, right?
Yeah.
And then using the lighting, and then because like the Mandalorian was all a tin can, right? And you get to see like the external environment reflected directly off them. That's how
Right.
they did that.
So they actually like had like 8K monitors, and the reflections on the armor would actually be on actual
Off.
like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's like shit like that, and they got like movable tiles and everything. It's really cool.
Oh.
For now, while actors are still people.
For
Yes.
now. For
Human.
now.
But I want to get your thoughts on like how best can we use, like how can we, for me, language is a big thing, right? Because we trying to get like, we anthropomorphize AI and GPT and LLMs and all these things, when in actual fact they're just technologies. They should be just considered like network layers, and it's like sockets and all this stuff, pure just primitive levels of technology that's available to us, right? When we start describing especially AI, right, in terms of like these what I call superfluous phrases, right? We describe it in a human-like quality and quantity. We're the agents that are subscribing that AI with intelligence, that artificial intelligence, when there's none actually there, right? Because we all know for long sakes, right, it's not really intelligent. All it is additive inference. It gives us the ability to scale ourselves and infer more quickly and do more faster, right? If anything, it allows me to scale to 10 times me, right?
But imagine that 10x of you that scaled, you also then could get in a room and have a conversation with all of them.
Yeah, but that's not 10 times the intelligence, though.
Maybe a committee of 10 fuzzies is exactly what the world needs. Maybe
Oh,
we
hell
need
no.
the Republic of Fuzzies.
Nothing will get done. Like, nothing.
And I like it. The way I think about it is like, they always said when you got a bug in your code, you rubber duck it. Like you talk to the rubber duck and you work it through. Like I see AI as like a rubber duck that talks back. It's not intelligent, but it's mirroring back to me in a way where I can kind of glean useful bits of information from it because it understands what I mean well enough to give me back a response that is useful to me. That doesn't mean I think it's intelligent.
You're the intelligent agent in this respect. all
But I
that
like
is
to be able
doing,
to talk to it and get a response back. That makes sense to me.
but are you talking to it? Is like in a sense you're effectively coding with it, but you're coding in natural
I'm not
English.
coding though. I'm writing English
No, but
language
the thing
sentences.
is, you're writing English language sentences, right?
Mhm.
But here's a repurpose of that statement, right? You're coding into a prompt using natural language, natural English, right?
Yeah, I know, but that's different. That's why that needs to be thought of as a different thing because it's a good thing that it's a different thing. It's where we want computers to be, so it allows us to actually talk to them.
I have a totally different take on this.
Go for it.
So it's sort of a meta take. Okay, so stepping back from the debate and let's just like watch the debate happening, right? On one hand, Fuzzy is saying that this is just a technology; it's not really intelligent, and we're coding with it. Anthony's saying, well, I'm talking to it, and it's doing things in natural language, and that's different from coding. Now, you're both talking about the same system from two different perspectives, and we're trying to narrow down on what exactly this thing is. But the truth is that both your perspectives are valid, and there is no actual difference in how Fuzzy perceives the LLM and how Anthony perceives the LLM. There's no difference. It's just a difference in the language we're using. So if we sort of put the differences aside, can we agree that talking to this thing in natural language gives you a natural language response? Is that something that we can agree on?
Yeah, yes, but I wouldn't say talking.
What would you say?
Communicating.
Yes, but like,
Manipulating.
but when you're talking, I'm not instructing you. I'm not giving you explicit instructions or commands, etc. Right?
You might be
Like
if we're working on something together.
but it's like I might be doing it subliminally, right? It's like, but the thing is, it's one of those where we are, where it is a communication, but I would say it's more explicit instructions.
Great. I can shoot the shit with ChatGPT too. I've had lots of interesting conversations with ChatGPT that have nothing to do with building anything. Like hours and hours of interesting conversation on all sorts of topics. That's just me. I'm weird. I like talking to it. I find it infinitely fascinating to have conversations with Chat. I've
replaced
had
all my
so
friends.
many conversations with ChatGPT. You have no idea.
Who needs friends?
I've replaced all my friends with ChatGPT. Is that what the phone tool is?
I get one new very interesting friend who's different from all my other friends. He doesn't replace my friends, but I got a new, very, very interesting, different friend now.
so like we're both. I think all three of us are seeing the same thing and using different words, right? So whether you say communicate, talk, code,
that is probably at the heart of what I'm trying to get at, right? Is the language that we're using to describe it. Like you're saying, we're discussing the same thing around the same parameters, but the language and the heuristics of what we're trying to get across, right?
Yeah.
Becomes fuzzied in the nuance. And that is like, and whereas when we were like, I was at the GPT there was a Google I/O conf in Glasgow at the weekend, right? And there was this lassie talking about prompt engineering in terms of like from a coding perspective, right? And she was like, codify your prompts, right? And if you could codify your prompts, right, you would ensure a level of accuracy right as well, right? So it goes from a one shot to a few shot to a cohesive shot, right?
So I've done with Autoshow. I've had my base prompts that everything is based off of.
Exactly. So you codified it, right?
Yeah,
and
that was the first thing I did. Yeah,
and that's what I'm trying to get at, is that when we're using these prompts and these GPTs, right, and these models, regardless of whatever form that they take, is that we're codifying our intent, right? Same way as we would code in JavaScript or TypeScript or any other domain-specific language, right?
Right.
Just that English is the domain-specific language for these GPTs, right?
Totally.
Well, it's a benefit for the English language and the speakers because, it's just going to accelerate the hyperness to that language itself, become a universal language we might see one day. Right. But right now, we're coding in English when we interact with ChatGPT.
I see what you're saying. So the implication...
a lot of other languages, though.
The implication...
all of them, but it does. Sorry, go ahead.
For sure. No, you're right. So most of the Western languages, I think, are in there. I know Hindi is in there too. So there's a lot of different languages. So we're speaking in, let's stick to English for a second. So we're speaking in English. So that means going back to your computers are becoming like clay. The implication there is that every human who can speak English or one of these languages is now also a semi-developer.
Exactly. And that was what Uncle Jensen was trying to get across. Right, when he said that in the next 15 years there's not going to be any programmers or need for programmers because everybody will be one.
Yeah,
that is and I could totally see that happening. But I think if we were to get smart about it and not run away with the fairies, right, when we talk about GPTs and models and all that stuff, right, and falsely dressing up a Hoover, right, and taking her out on a date is effectively what's happening. If you could get the mental image right of just putting a dress on a Hoover and just taking it out for a date, right?
That like a vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, like a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. So you're putting a dress on a vacuum cleaner and taking it out on a date. Yeah.
And then so it's we got to see it like that. We got to discuss it like that is what I'm trying to say, right? Because if we don't, we'll get lost, run with the fairies, and see, coming back to the heart of it, right, when we talk about the masses, it being like clay, and the people who don't know how to use computers or just don't use computers at all are going to be eventually using this, right, technology. If we can figure out the compute and the efficiency side, right, and we could break down the barrier of entry, so it's not like away with the fairies where people have different anthropomorphic interpretations of what this technology is. Right. Whereas if they have a clear understanding of what the technology is, you get what I'm trying to say?
I do. You're right, but maybe the anthropomorphization is the evangelization too. Maybe the anthropomorphization is the interface, and maybe there's no need to over-explain past it. So if I'm driving a car and I'm in automatic, I don't really need to understand how gears work. It would help if I did, but all I need to do as a dumb person who doesn't know how to drive manual, I only know how to drive auto. I just put it into drive, and then I push the gas pedal, and then I turn my wheel, and as long as the car doesn't brake, I'm happy, and it does what I need it to do. I don't need to go look under the hood. I don't need to go understand how to drive manual. I don't even need to know what fabric my seats are made of. I can just sit on it and I can go, and that's all that you really need.
But that's an additive skill, though, isn't it? It's an additive feature, the automatic gearbox, right?
Yes.
So, and that is at the heart of what I'm trying to say, right? That these are additive features. It should be AF, not AI.
Artificial.
No, additive features, additive influence. It's like intelligence.
Huh. Interesting. I think intelligence itself is an anthropomorphized word. So if we want to move away from anthropomorphization, I think we should move away from the concept of intelligence itself.
That's why I use inference. That's why I use the term inference more so, right, in this case, in these use cases over the past year that I have done in a long time, because if anything, it has allowed us to scale the ability that you bear in mind, our brains are nothing more than a giant inference engine themselves.
Yes.
It allows us to scale that inference ability to a complexity that I've yet to find a suitable measurement that I could put my hat on.
You know what? Now that you put it that way, I'm completely on board. Like if you consider the brain to be on equal footing with the LLM, or a more advanced version of an LLM, I'm with you. I think there's barely any difference.
Yeah, it's if you see it as an inference engine, right? Then you could like see the new, it's like there is similarity between the the let me just think of the words I'm trying to say. Is like if you were to look at the synapse of a brain, right? And see the dendrites and the
neural synapse on off McCullough Pitt's neuron, 1945.
Right. And so it's like, so when you look at that, right, you see like complexity like of just unimaginable scale. But when you look at how LLMs work under the hood, you see a very basic dendrite.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I need to go. I got a call.
Right. Hey, this was amazing, Fuzzy. Nice meeting you.
Half person timing.
Love
Thanks for coming on, man.
Right?
Fun.
Peace and love. Right.
See you.
How do I get out of this?
Oh, just cut the window. Just leave.
California, man.
Command Q. All right. With that, I think we'll call it there.
Yes, we need to have Fuzzy on more. I'll see you, Anthony. Bye.
Yeah, that was fun.